What's up, y'all? It's your girl Sid, and welcome back to another episode of CoolHER Talk. Welcome to a space where women transparently inspire and empower through conversations about career, relationships, and all of life's experiences. Joining me today at the Cooler is Fashionprenuer Sophia Danner-Okotie, the founder and owner of Besida, an African-inspired fashion brand. Sophia and I attended the University of Georgia together, but so much has flourished in her life since our college days. She is a Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient, and her company Besida has been featured in Essence, Vogue, CBS Mornings, and a host of other spotlights. Sophia, welcome to the Cooler. I'm so happy to have you here today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you so much for having me. I really don't know ever how to introduce myself because, you just kind of made me shy with everything that you just said. And it's so beautiful to hear it. But I think as far as what inspired me to go on this journey, as far as an introduction, it really has a lot to do with my migration story. So I came to the U.S. when I was 9 from Nigeria. And let me just say this, okay? For a lot of Americans don't understand this, that for Nigerians, it's like bigger than winning the lottery. All right. It's really like feeling like you're going into this land of milk and honey. And so when I got here to America, I tried as hard as possible to forget that I was Nigerian and to not embrace my culture because I didn't want to be looked at as the African girl. I got teased a lot, and all of that. So that's evolved into me finally accepting myself, and it was in college, and then starting to think of ways that I could go back home. And when I started visiting Nigeria is when I was like, I think that I can start a fashion brand because these colors are so beautiful. And I think women in America would love to wear these prints. Okay. And additionally, the poverty in Nigeria really struck me. Okay. Because I grew up very sheltered in Nigeria and we were very okay. I didn't realize how much poverty existed in the country. So I was like, let me see what I can do about it. And that's kind of how Besida was born. So all of our clothing is made in Nigeria, imported into America, and sold to women worldwide. So I just think of Besida as Africa giving to us and us giving back to Africa.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I think just like you said, because it's so rooted in your immigration story, that kind of transcending of giving back and it also giving to us is what happened to you, right? You grew up and this girl is just look, I don't want to be known as the African girl, became older and realized that your heritage was just so much a part of who you were. So I think that it's always beautiful when we can find those just personal things that are just innate to the core of who we are and pour it into a business. To me, that story is something that nobody else, can really tell. So thinking about, your journey, not just to America, but your journey now as a business owner, as a young girl, who made, an impact on you or who influenced you feel the most, just kind of growing up?
I would have to say it's definitely my mom. I grew up with a lot of incredible women around me. I got to meet my grandmother and my great-grandmother, and I lived with all three of them. But my mom was the most inspirational. My mom actually was an entrepreneur herself. She actually had her own business in Nigeria. So she's a massage therapist and an esthetician. And she went to school in the UK. So she went to learn the business there, came back, opened up her own wellness center. So she had not only the spa going on, but she also had a gym. She had a hair salon, and it was so unique. And I would go into this space and see my mom working. I put air quotes on working because it looked like she was always having a good time. I'm like, why are your friends always here? And she would have some of the most powerful women, senators, and, in the state, come to get services from her. She would be teaching classes, giving massages. And she also, what I loved about my mom is she also had a great team. in Benin, where I was born, there is no such thing. Like, it is like,
Yeah.
when you think of country, like the country, Benin is very similar to that. And it just didn't have, it lacked innovation. But because she was well traveled herself, I think because of that exposure, she was able to bring that back to Nigeria. And it really, I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. But I think that seeing her do it, it obviously set the foundation for entrepreneurship, because what I loved about it is my mom had freedom. My mom could bring in her friends and bring in her family, and I could even show up to her job, and it was just this big community. And I know that that feeling to me, like, it didn't look like work for her. And I know that was very, very important for me when I made that transition into full-time entrepreneurship. Yeah.
And so I think the other cool thing about, just what you witnessed from your mom is, one, I'm learning she's like embodying just self-care just all around, like an esthetician, massage. Like, I need to book an appointment with her. Like, absolutely.
Yes, come see her.
So you transition, and I know this story just from, our college days, but you transition from being a news girl, like studying essentially like broadcast. If y'all don't hear it in Sophia's voice, like, I don't even know what to tell you, into fashion. So what was that moment, or that trigger that just forced you, to pivot? Like, how did that transition come about?
That's a very interesting question. I really still don't understand how it all happened. So here's the thing with news. You usually enter into a contract. So it's usually like 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. So I had started Besida a year into me working for the TV station that I was working for. And within a year of that, of me starting the business, I started seeing growth, and my contract was ending. So because I ran the business also in Nigeria, because I had to make the clothing there, traveling while working was very difficult. They only gave me 2 weeks, and they wouldn't even allow me to get off, those 2 weeks at a time. So I don't even know if it was necessarily like a choice for me to leave news. It was more so I thought I was taking a break. So at the end of that contract, I was like, well, I'm just going to take a break from news for about 6 months, build the company up until I make $1 million in a year, and then go back to news. Like, it all sounded very clear in my head. Like, you just gone, that's easy. Shocker. As soon as I left, I think I realized how difficult it was to actually grow the business. I didn't know anything about marketing. So I started trying to run back into TV. Like, I remember 3 months in, I was like, okay, let me start going into doing more interviews and like meeting with people, and nobody would hire me. Wow. It was the strangest thing, because I remember going to NABJ, which is like a conference for Black journalists. And usually that's where you lock in a deal. And I had so many interests, and no one would hire me. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I'm a sucky journalist. Like, it's, I'm very confident in my skills and in my presentation, but what is going on here? So not only was I not doing very well with business sales at the time, and this was 2016, I also could not get back into TV, like it seemed like. And I was like, oh my gosh, like,
where do I go from here?
Where do I go from here? Like, and I took a hit. Like, when I say my ego took a hit, I was like, all the voices started creeping in. You really thought you ain't nothing. Yeah. All right. You don't know what you're doing. That was what just kept in my head. You don't know what you're doing. And, it took me a few years, and I still will say that I'm still dealing with bits and pieces of that. But that was basically my transition. And at some point I was like, you know what? Besida is it. Besida is it. And I just have to go full throttle. And 2 years later, we opened our own studio in Nigeria. best decision I've ever made because it's a workshop. It's where we hire our own team. They are able to get paid above fair living wages. We monitor everything. I have the best manager in the world. I think even better than ever, I got to experience my family in Nigeria in ways that I never would have if I had to keep working. So I would go to Nigeria and be there for like 2 months. People would be like, did you move back home? Like, I learned how to drive in Nigeria. I have a license there. I have my, a house that I rent there. Like, it started feeling like, oh my gosh, like my life is really beautiful. I just get up and go.
Right.
And once again, what I really love about entrepreneurship is that freedom. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that was something that I was thinking about, is having this pivot where it wasn't like a moment where you're just like, you know what, like this is what I'm going to do. And it was this kind of straight and narrow and easy thought. It was a force, right? Like,
it was a force.
The job I thought I was going to have, I don't have it. This business that I started might not be doing well, but it's still mine. And so choosing to kind of go, it's the road less traveled either way, right? What does that, I guess, it's more than a team, but just like, what does that team stack? You talked about having a studio, back in Nigeria, going back and forth, staying for 2 months, having to get a place to rent, like on top of the business itself, like picking designs, like going through fabrics, like what does that look like when you first started? Like, what were the first things that you did? Was it hire a team? Was it just start, creating different products? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So when I first started, I heavily relied on the tailors that I was contracting. So before I had the studio, I would contract different tailors to help me kind of bring my ideas to life. Because here's the thing, people are shocked when I say this. I am not a traditional designer. I do not sew. I don't even sketch real good. But what I do, and designing is so technical that I don't even, people say, this is the designer of Besida. I'm like, hold on a second. Yeah. I think of myself more of as a creative director.
Love that.
And a visionary, because what I do know is I know what looks good. I have instinct. So I know what looks good, and I kind of know what people want. Especially when it comes with prints and colors. So what I did know that I needed was the technical help with creating the pieces. So I had tailors contracted, but I know in Nigeria, I needed a manager, like someone who was going to be able to kind of keep things together while I wasn't there, because I did not plan on being there. I had to go sell the business in America, sell the clothing. So the first hire that I made was my manager in Nigeria. And then as the business started growing, we started hiring, help. We started hiring tailors to be in the studio with us. And for many years, it was just my manager. It was the head seamstress who would cut the pieces and then pass it over to we call them joiners, the ladies who would put the pieces together, and then my manager would ship it here to the US. So for a long time, it was really just them in Nigeria, and I would handle all of the work here and maybe hire some help whenever I did shows and festivals and things like that, because that's how I started selling Besida a lot, was at live events. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Like, I think, many people, when you think about like even the fashion space from an entrepreneur perspective, it's like, man, like you're not just talking about, working with people here in your, area or whatever. Like, you're going back and forth to Nigeria, like to the States, like not only to do business, but to make the business grow, to sell the things. And most people, I feel like easily just the travel of that alone would be like, nah, ain't cutting it. Like, let me find a different vendor, different manufacturer here. Like, and so like, I just commend you just on, because how many years in business has it been now?
Gosh, it started in 2015. This is our 9th year. I cannot believe it's that long. And what's funny about what you just said is I have a boutique partner who really is so intrigued by everything we do. And she said, I just want to know, like, how do you do this? Like, this must be so difficult. And I said, the funny thing is, the setup in Nigeria was probably the easiest part of my business. It's the easiest. It became very easy to me. And because and it was a challenge in a way, but I was like, these are my people. Like,
Yeah.
and one thing I know is that if you set guidelines for people, they will follow. And I mean, I won't say it was 100% easy, but because half the stuff I started receiving the first couple of years, I could not
like,
sell
this ain't
those.
it.
Okay. But with the training, when I say the work that my team puts out now is impeccable, nobody can touch us. I stand confident on that our work, the craftsmanship is too good. And especially for the price point. So that is, like I said, working in Nigeria.
That's from the headband, like
From the
y'all can
headband.
tell.
And it was
Y'all
so,
can tell.
it was a team member. It was my manager who designed it. She was like, I think we should try this instead. And I said, no, let's just stick to what we're doing. And she just sent one over, and she sent a few, and I had a market that I went to, and they all like sold out.
Sold out. And y'all, I got
them.
pants to match. So
Because it matches and it's simple. You can wear it just with something simple, and it spices it up. And the great thing is it's actually made out of scrap pieces too. So it's like upcycled and very sustainable. And it's so beautiful. Yeah.
So most of Besida's growth, like over the last almost 10 years, has been online, like through online growth. Has there ever been a desire, like, you know, for you to have, you know, just brick and mortar studios or spaces? Like, what has that, you know, kind of vision looked like?
I've never had a desire to open a shop, because that's just overhead. And I think that the growth has been online, yes, but also it's been at these markets that I used to do.
Yep,
yeah. And so that was like my mini shop for a few days. And so I put a lot of pride into the decor. We do Essence Festival a lot, and we, you know, very, very successful there. So instead of like having a studio, what we've started doing, where we're seeing a lot of growth now, is we're partnering with boutiques, partnering with shops to now start getting Besida to women all over the country, by having them go into a store and pick up the piece there. So that's a very interesting pivot for me, because it is a pivot. And it is, anytime that we pivot in business, it does come with a bit of a stretch. And so in the past 3 months, I would say like I've been stretched. But I do recognize that I've been here before. You know, I've been stretched before, and we made it out, and we were better because of it. Yeah.
And I think like some power into what you were saying about, hey, like I never had a vision to necessarily have, you know, a chain or whatever of brick and mortar, you know, shops or studios. But what I've done is taken my brand and brought it to, you know, where my audiences are.
Yeah.
Essence, like it's a shop here in Dallas, and they, I mean, everything from candles to clothes to bags, but they only kind of fill the store with women-owned brands. And I didn't know that upon going. I went in there for like a scent making class, and everything in the store like that they sold was from a women-owned brand. And so I think this kind of new wave of just like how brick and mortar can be re-engineered. Brick and mortar does look like pop-up shop. Brick and mortar does look like, let me go where my audience is, versus I open up this one spot, you know, in a random city or location, and I'm going to get my people every now and then. So I think that's like a beautiful, just like, you know, approach to product-based businesses these days, is that there's so many festivals and just so many things that are happening where you can go put your brand in front of your audience at any point, versus, you know, kind of the old school way of like, let me open up this shop just because I live here. Like, this is where I have it. And it's not really as, you know, as viable as just taking your brand on the road and like getting that exposure.
It doesn't make sense. And you know, one thing I would say goes back to my values of freedom. Like, that sounds like me trapping myself. It doesn't mean I won't do it in the future, but like, that sounds like I have to be there every day to monitor it. Nah, I'm good. Anywhere that I have to be every day, that sounds toxic.
Like, nope. Like, not freedom. Not freedom.
I love the fact I can get on my computer from anywhere in the world and do the work that I need to do. That feels good to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's take a break in the conversation and have a pour session. So if you're listening in, a pour session is a time where you get to know a little bit more about me and my guests. And we actually introduced this at our CoolHER Talk Live retreat in November 2023. We had so much fun with it, and we decided to just bring it into the show. So, Sophia, I have 3 questions for you, and I'll also answer them myself. So, question 1, if you could have lunch with someone from the past or your past specifically, who would it be?
It would definitely be my uncle. Like my uncle, he's gone now. He passed away 3 years ago. And my uncle is the reason why I live in America. He actually registered my mother for a visa lottery, which basically allowed her to win, legal access into America. And then also, the beautiful full circle is the one that gave me permission to come back to Nigeria, helped me open up my studio, and just did all the things, helped me buy my first generator, which is a light source for us in Nigeria that helps us power our studio. So it would be with him, because I just want to just chat with him. And he had a way of telling me things that would always level me out when I would be so hot tempered. So it would just be with him. Yeah.
I love that. I think if I had to pick, I know my answer changes all the time. And usually my answer is always like a woman from our past that was doing something for the first time. So today, I'm going to say Shirley Chisholm. I know there's a biopic coming out about her
Auntie
soon.
Chisholm.
But just you ever think about if I could sit down at lunch and just talk to her about everyone doubted you. Everyone was like, this ain't happening. And you did it anyway. And I think we talk a lot so far about confidence. And, I find myself very similar to you, where I've always kind of been the confident girl. I've always, been confident about the things that I did, the things that I thought were my strengths, the things that I knew were my weaknesses. I've just been confident about, being able to vocalize that and know that and walk on that. So I think that's who I would pick, just because, I don't know, having a moment with some of those women pioneers from our past that were doing things for the first time. I think we're inspired now, but it's just man, if I actually sat and got to talk to you, that's a whole different level of inspiration.
Back then, back then. Remember that, I don't think any other woman has gotten it. Maybe Hillary Clinton, but any other Black woman has gotten as close to Shirley.
That close back then.
And she did it back then. So that is a good one.
So question 2, since we're talking fashion, do you like to accessorize more with silver or more with gold? My answer is I'm wearing I'm a gold girl.
You're a gold girly, and so am I. I just love the contrast, especially with my dark skin. And my nickname in my language is Oro Dudu. Oro means gold. Dudu means black. So they call me Black Gold. I'm the darkest one in my family, and it's just such a shock to everyone. So they started calling me Black Gold. Yeah.
That's a beautiful nickname. I love it. All right. So whether it's personal or professional, what's your favorite social media platform and why? The answer could also be none of them, but
oh my gosh. Do you know what? I'm so happy you said none of them.
Because you're if I could
I'm not gonna lie, I love TikTok. Let me not be over here pretending. I think that I get annoyed as far as the business aspects of socials. It's just a lot of pressure to be there and to try to pivot always, and content not getting seen and all the hard work. However, for me, personally for me and how I consume social media, it would have to be TikTok. I can be on TikTok for hours. Yes. It's not a good thing. Yeah.
I didn't pin you as a clock app girl.
Yes. I love video and I love storytelling, and I love that there's an app that allows you to really get into people's lives or whatever it is, whatever life they're trying to depicts as well. So I didn't watch Risa Tesla's whole thing, but I kind of got the gist of it after six segments, and I was
episode 29.
You did?
I was wow. Okay, at this point, it's enough little clip notes going around.
Exactly. Let me just get a synopsis.
Now she's in all the magazines.
Baby. She got signed to an agency. I said, God bless it. And that's what I love about TikTok. That's what I love about video in general. I've always understood the power of video just because I have a news background. But like the fact that like that video is so popular now, I'm just like, about time. Like, I've been telling y'all, like, video is how you truly connect with people. Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's like, until you just said it in that way, I never thought about the fact that before TikTok came around, granted, back in the day we had Vine, but that was like, it wasn't for storytelling. It was quick cuts, you know, of things. But before TikTok came around, and I guess YouTube is like, I'm entering the chat, but we didn't really have a format. YouTube was still more like, you need equipment.
Yes.
And, you know, like you have to do the thing.
It was seems exclusive. Yeah.
Or just YouTube. But TikTok, before it came around, and that's the thing that I think you see with these digital mediums, like some come and some go, some stay. Like Snapchat, you know, was doing a thing for a minute, and then like it slowly kind of fell off, because in order for you to come like into that market and just truly make a lasting home, you have to be providing a way for people to connect that was not there before. Yeah. You know, which is why people get so pissed off with like Instagram wanting, or any meta platform wanting to do all the things, because it's like, we were good connecting here with our photos. And now you want me to also do, you know, all the things. But it was an article I was reading this week. I can't remember what publication it was from, but it was something. It was a stat about how many news headlines in the last, I want to say 5 years or whatever, have started off with the TikTok viral sensation X. Like how many like news headlines TikTok had, you know, kind of changed the way that, you know, even in media, that the language is, and like what is being found as a story, versus when it was just the days of Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, like. And I was just like, this is a crazy, you know, stat to even like, for somebody to even kind of like look through. But how, again, like to your point, video is so dynamic in terms of connection, in terms of reaching people, in terms of people understanding cues, gestures, all those things. And it was just basically, you know, saying how TikTok has been in more headlines in the last 3 to 4 years than all other social platforms, you know, had in a decade before it. So I was like, that is crazy.
And virality is not always, because of course you've got the algorithms and all this and all that, but and people hate algorithms. Business wise, I hate it too. But usually when you watch something that is viral, you understand why it's viral. There's something in there that makes you connect to it. So there's a lot to learn from that. And even talking here, I'm like, ooh, maybe I need to go do a study on how I could, you know, make Besida not go viral, but understand what it is that people are connecting with, and then bring that through our content as well. Yeah.
Love that. So over the last, again, like 9 years, like how has social media had an impact on Besida, or just, you know, your field in general?
Huge. I when I started Besida, it was mainly social media that I used to get the word out. And well, I had too much of an influence back then, because I thought, oh, if you just post it on social media, people will buy it and you sell out. And it's like, nah.
Like 5 orders.
No, didn't work like that, girl. But I think that social media helped us with our storytelling. It helped people better understand and communicate. Okay, can really communicate what our purpose is, because behind just beautiful clothing is the real purpose of Besida, which are the hands that make it, which need who these women and men now need these jobs to be able to take care of their families. Like we pay the best in our town. We pay our team the best, and we take care of them the best out of anyone else. And being able to share that with people, I feel, was how we connected to them, and that was through social media. So women, when they bought pieces, they felt like, oh, they're not just buying a garment; they're buying, you know, something that's going to exactly part of a story, and they're part of the impact. You know, they're part of what is helping these people change their lives as well. So social media has been good. Social media is great for testing now, which is what I kind of use it for these days. It's like trying to figure out what it is that people really like, because you reach a certain point in business where it's like you can't always make what you like anymore. And as much as I have great instincts, I also need to run it through, you know, to see. But I would say for as far as marketing wise, social media has led to a lot of sales. I don't get as many sales from like Instagram as I would, as other brands would. It's just not the main form. The main form of me converting is through ads, but also through my text message and email list.
Yeah.
And how I grew that was through social media. So when, they would see a post and the post would go viral, I have some TikToks that have like 6 million views or whatever, and they would go on the page. I remember the first time that I went viral on TikTok.
In the text message
that I saw I didn't even find out off of TikTok. I found out off of my email. My email was going off because it's this person, new subscriber, new subscriber, new subscriber, new subscriber. I was like, what is going on? And I look on TikTok and I was like, whoa, it converted immediately to some sales, but eventually I was able to convert my subscribers that came from TikTok eventually over time into new customers. So for me, it's like, I own my audience, now. I have access to them directly, and I leverage social media to grow that. Yeah.
And that is a beautiful example. Like me being a social strategist, digital strategist, agency owner, have been doing this for over a decade. A lot of times what we find when working with entrepreneurs or anybody trying to make any type of conversion using social is they think post a thing, make the money.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, and literally what my agency specializes in is all the steps in between that, right? Like conversion all the time is not like, oh, well, I posted this new dress that, I have coming out in my spring line, and I'm just scrolling on refresh on Shopify to see, no, baby, like think about all the steps in between. Just like you said, a step that's usually forgotten is building the audience. It does not matter if you have 5,000 or 500,000 followers on this one platform or across all your platforms. How much of that audience do you own? How much of that audience can you actually naturally just get to? And like you said, SMS and email are the best ways to do it. It's so many entrepreneurs that start working with us. And we've had a client in the past where they had a pretty substantial social following, but their email base was so much larger than all of their platform following combined, and they never used it.
What?
Never used it. And they were a brick and mortar business, multiple locations. And we were like, we don't care about social media right now. Like we care about this email base. Like your email base is larger than all of your platform audiences combined. So I think, if you're listening to this, like what we're saying is, don't think post a thing, make the money. Like there's so many steps in between. And a big part of that is finding the ways, especially if you're a product-based business, like finding the ways to own your audiences at different levels. So whether it's SMS, email, think of social as like your third and second baby. Like it's good to have, it's good for the visuals, it's good for people to find you initially. But okay, I found you and followed you. Now, how do I still have a follower? Doesn't necessarily, isn't as close to a customer as somebody in SMS or email, like a subscriber close to a customer. So that is an amazing example. And I'm like, preach, 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 preach. Like,
and I'll add to that like, I think what we do with social media now is we just use it kind of as a way of people like checking in.
Yeah.
I don't expect conversions from social media posts anymore. But what I do see is that, especially with a lot of our posts are about storytelling. Like we use models now that, have a story to tell. So what I realize is that tugs at the heart of people and it allows them to remember us, because a huge part of marketing is, do people remember you when they need something? Okay. Because a lot of women are not spontaneous. If you shop like me, you can put 100 things in front of me and an ad. I was like, the algorithms hate me. Shop owners hate me because I will scroll and see something beautiful and keep going. Like I am not a spontaneous buyer. I'm someone who remembers you have something when I need it and then I go get it. So we use social media as a way of just kind of tugging at your heartstrings. So when you remember that you want to get something for yourself or get something for someone else, you then go to shopbesida.com to buy it. Yeah.
And then y'all also take it to another level too, where so many pieces, of Besida are so versatile, right? Where there's the dress, where does it? And so I love the content, where it's like, okay, if you back over here, like now here are all the ways, that you can wear that one piece. I love that kind of balance of, we're here for the storytelling and we're also here to like make sure all the different ways that you can wear your pieces. So in the world of fast fashion and buying new outfits for every occasion because we don't want to like show it twice on the gram, like that whole vibe, right? Like of this millennial consumer behavior.
Sustainable, right? Yeah.
How does Besida withstand, you know, in the fashion industry amidst those, you know, just very popular consumer behaviors of I buy it, wore it one time, I'm done. Like, how do you guys withstand through that?
Yeah, I think that definitely our convertible pieces is the major way that we push through that, because we're basically giving you a bang for your buck. Okay, our price points, when you're not going to get a Besida piece for $20, you know, unless it's a headband. But it is, I do recognize that our price points are elevated. However, if you're going to buy our Formidable, you're going to be able to wear it in 4 different ways, and you're going to keep it in your closet longer. You're going to also talk about it, because once again, this is all about storytelling. Storytelling is the root of everything I do. So when you wear it and somebody compliments you, one, you can talk about, oh yeah, girl, I wore it as a skirt last week. And you can talk about, oh, and also it was made in Nigeria. And then you can tell them it's also Besida. So it's like, in a way, we're helping, we really want to build community with these pieces. So I can never make fast fashion, you know, whatever that is. I don't think that it aligns with my values.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, if I have this value and belief system, there are other women that do, and other women deep down are searching for it. They might not be able to afford it right now, but it is something that they desire. Okay. Yeah. You know, you can afford Fashion Nova, and sometimes you gotta, you know, wear Fashion Nova if you still want to look good, and you know you can't afford Besida, but you still see Besida as something that's very valuable. And one day, when you have enough, you coming over to our side, and that's when we get you hooked. Because as soon as you wear the pieces, you're like, wait, this feels good wearing.
Right.
You
and
know,
I don't wear it 3 different times, and every time I walk out, I get complimented. And like the pieces are just statements. Like they're just statements all in there.
Exactly. So it doesn't really bother me that there's fast fashion out there. We will still continue doing whatever we want to do. Yeah.
I love that. I think you know, kind of speaking to, because I have obviously purchased Besida pieces, and
I think used to purchase our crop tops too, our little tops that you could string in different ways.
Used to wear with like a nice flowy denim skirt, and that's what I was gonna say. I feel like any Besida piece I've ever bought, like, because I am a style girly, if I'm wearing Besida, like everything else that I have on is muted. Everything else, like today, I got on like a white tee with a nice print on it, but like it speaks for itself. So I don't need like to add a lot. And like that's something that I really love, because I'll go and get I'm like, it's just a headband, you know, but it sets off the whole vibe. And I'm like, I just love that. I don't have to think, when I want to see that, I don't have to think too hard about anything else. I'm putting that on, and everything else just gonna be on. Like,
it's easy. It really, I tell people that, I'm like, it really, dressing up does not have to be hard.
No,
you just need a nice piece. And that whole thing about compliments, because we get that all the time. And I said, I need to make some content about that. But I think it's also the energy that is spewing out. Remember that these pieces are all natural fibers as well. So there's a lot of power in them, and it's coming from Africa. Like, you know, whether you want to be like I'm not spiritual or whatever it is, like there is a lot of power in what you are wearing, and we pray over everything too. So this, I always say, like, Besida has energy. In our, there's energy in there, and so I need to market that better. But it's something that I hear all the time. Is like I go out with something simple, and everybody is flocking to me, and I'm just like, because
it's energy in the threads, like it's there. I got chills just think about that. So last year, in an interview with Gayle King on CBS Mornings, you said you believe our idea of what's great is nothing compared to God's best for us, and that you're literally living in God's dream for your life. And back to energy, like when I say that energizes me in ways that like I've never felt. And like, if you just need to hear it from Sophia's voice, like she has it pinned on her Instagram page, but believing that and knowing that, how do you cope or even just chart through those low days when you're like, this might be the end of the road, or the business is just not doing well, or I'm just burnt out. Like, how do you kind of use that to chart through those low days?
Oh my gosh. I have, especially recently with the pivot that we are making into more wholesale, I've had a lot of low days. Our shop was broken into in November. A wholesale account that we were depending on coming through that I invested a lot into, like what we were pitching to them, just fell through. So in the past, say 3-4 months, I've had a lot of low days. But here's the thing that I've learned with the lowest of the low days is actually an opportunity. Okay. There is a chart. I'm not sure if it's not a chart. It's like there's some meme out there that shows the amount of businesses that were born out of the recession in 2008. And it was like basically the big businesses of our time right now. Like it just showed that, like, when things are low, it's an opportunity. So I don't look, and maybe this is my faith, I don't look at lows as being like everything is crap. Yeah. It's bad. Like, I will have my low moments, but then I will come out of it real quick because I realize, okay, it's in this low that I'm more passionate as well. It's in this low that I'm more I'm more in tune with my feelings. And it's out of my feelings that I'm going to give birth to something that is passionate, that people can also feel. So I have to get to creating. Yep. And and right now in this low point that I'm in, I really think that I've developed a concept that I will launch very soon that is going to change this world. I do believe that. And so a lot of times our lows are just the opportunity for us to also pivot. And if things are not working, you cannot keep beating at it to work. You have to change lanes. All right. And that's where I am. I have to really keep that quote in mind, that this idea that I had of Besida going the direction I want it to be, maybe that's not God's best. Yeah. He's leading me to another direction that will be better than this. I just need to surrender. And I think that surrender is where a lot of us end up being stuck at, because we just are so sold on the direction we want things to go. And that actually keeps us stuck. Yeah.
Girl, a whole word. Like, being able to find the energy to, like you said, find the energy to get back to what you love, find the energy to, hey, you've always had this kind of like, lane of empowering and changing the world. Like, when you're low, like you said, like, a lot of people get low, or you lose a client or something like that. Like we talked about before we really hopped on, about finessing. Like, that's even an element to finessing, like, as an entrepreneur. Like, the longer you stay in that space of, man, I lost this client, or man, my sale didn't go the way that I wanted, or man, I really thought I would land this deal and it didn't happen, or, I have to, lay off my team because I don't have the capital for the next few months to pay them. Like, the more you just sit with that, and like you said, like, instead of seeing like, what, like, maybe I was trying to do too much, maybe I was forcing it, and maybe I just need to surrender. Like, I have found, I would say, especially over the last 18 months of being full-time entrepreneur and mom, like, I have learned the power of, Sid, you just do what you can do. Everything else is God's hands. Like, everything. Don't you worry about capital. Don't you, like, literally in the same year of becoming a mom, my team grew to 7. Wow. Clients grew, like, the business trajectory just grew in the same year that it was my first year being a mom. Like, wow. And that couldn't have happened off of any power that I have. You know what I mean? And so, like, I am true, like, a testament and an agreement to, sometimes when you have those low days, because you are going to have them. If you run any type of business, you are going to have them. But
it's just being able
to, like, get back to what you love, into that energy that was keeping, like, that's the key. You can't stay in the low space.
It feel it, recognize it.
Right.
I always say, don't run away
Don't
from your
ignore it.
feelings.
Yeah.
Feel it and talk about it. Even if you have somebody that you can talk about it with, do that. But you got to also recognize that it is all God. I'm very spiritual. Everyone knows this. I'm very much like, God is everything to me. I love Jesus. And sometimes in my faith, in Christianity, we end up saying, oh, it's the devil's work. And what I'm learning is a lot of your lows is not the devil. Okay.
Correct.
Sometimes it's God allowing you to go through that because he needs you to get in alignment. All right. So he need to kick things up, kick it
Let me
off,
straighten
like
you up.
break that. Like, sorry, we got to get you back on track. Let me get your attention. So I just kind of go with it now. I'm like, oh, this. I look funky. I look messy. I look, as far as like what I'm going through, my situation looks really bad. But watch. Just watch.
And it's just a phase. Like, it's just a phase is like words that I've had to adapt in motherhood. And then last year on CoolHER Talk, there was a guest, Charlene, and her advice that she left at the water cooler was treat life like an experiment, not a test.
Oh.
So when you're going in, like, it's not like, I got to get all these answers right on this thing and it's an end all be. It's an experiment. Like, it can go well or it can't, and like that lives rent free in my head. So for our final question today, if you could leave advice at the cooler for a woman looking to be in your space or your shoes, what would you tell them?
I get asked this question all the time, and I feel like it can't always be the same answer. It has to be something that is aligned with the season that I'm in. I would say it's right along with what we just discussed. Is don't be so sold out on how you want things to turn out. Be open to whatever way it is supposed to turn out. Okay. A lot of times we just have our own ideas, and that's great. That's cool. You needed it for a certain season, but there comes a season where you actually grow. You become a different person. Okay. The 32-year-old me right now is not the 24-year-old, 25-year-old who started Besida. And so I can't expect that I'm still thinking like her. Either. And sometimes we want to get so stuck in that 25-year-old way of thinking. No, grow, especially grow with your business. Let your mindset change, and also let the way you're thinking about your business change, and be open. And I really think that that's where the real magic happens. That's where things really start to pop off. Yeah.
So true. Like, it's so many times we try to like get back to, like, I'm trying to get back to, I used to say it a lot, like after I came off maternity leave, I'm trying to get back to creating content like I used to. You can't, like, your mornings are no longer yours, anymore. And like, that's a whole, just message of, you kind of have to let, like you said, 25-year-old Sophia and 32-year-old Sophia in Besida, that's completely different worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the more we try to like, oh, well, when I started the business, my ultimate goal was da 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 da. It's 10 years later. Like, not only have you changed, your business changed, team changed, the world done changed. Like,
everything has changed. COVID happened. Goodness.
you can't just get back. So I absolutely love that. So Sophia, are there any like exciting projects, products, events, or anything coming up with Besida? And tell the people like where they can follow you and keep up with you.
Yeah, very exciting. Besida is changing a lot. And once again, with me changing. So Besida is not going to look the same in the next, I would say in the fall. Besida is going to be very, very different. So y'all pray for me that I'm able to really fully embrace the change. So just look out for that. We are partnering with some exciting boutiques. And so we're kind of going to get back to like the core of community, and really building our community. Still rooted in all the goodness, bold prints, and made in Nigeria, but things are just going to look different. So you can find us at Shop Besida, SHOPBESIDA, on all of our socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and add a .com to our website. Yeah.
Ooh. All right, Sophia, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was exciting.
And y'all, thank you so much for joining us at The Cooler and listening in. See you next time. Cooler Talk is a space where women transparently inspire and empower through conversations about womanhood, careers, relationships, and all of life's experiences. Since the beginning of the corporate office world, the water cooler has been a space for the gossip, the chisme, the work drama, and let's keep it real, for spilling the tea. And while the water cooler has modernized over the years into the fancy coffee pot or the espresso machine and snack bar, the subject of many of those conversations have gone unchanged. Women. Whether it's about our hair or our wardrobe, our attitude or our vibe, or even our performance, women are usually the subject of those conversations or not invited to those talks. And so Cooler Talk is a space just for us. Over the last 2 years, I've had the amazing opportunity to connect with some phenomenal women in different careers, from different cultural backgrounds, and in different stages of this crazy journey that we call life. We've grown a community through hard truths, celebratory moments, and inspiring stories. If you gathered around the cooler before, thank you so much for rocking with us. And if you're new here, pull up a seat and stay tuned for new episodes dropping on Wednesdays. Be sure to follow Cooler Talk on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. To never miss a drip, subscribe and join the community at coolertalk.com. See you at the cooler.